Welcome to another edition of Athletes Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host and creator, Alexander Turner. Here we make sure that we are able to not only bring you people who can not only help you build your business, build your brand, we make sure that we are bringing you people who have actually done the things that you're looking to do so you can be successful in building a business, building your brand, and navigating this crazy NIL space, all right? So today I actually have an amazing guest with me. It is my guy, Trey Tarpley III. My man played at Vanderbilt. He is actually in one of the semi-pro leagues right now, plays for the USFL. So I want to go ahead and introduce my guy, Trey. What's going on, man?
Man, what's up, man? How you doing? Thank you for having me. I'm definitely excited about getting into it today.
Hey, and I'm excited that you're able to get on, right? Because we actually, for those of you all who are new to the show, right, I have a few businesses where essentially, you know, it's a wide range of what they do, but it's helping people build their business and helping people build their brand. And I met Trey actually at a mastermind that I'm in from one of my mentors. And I met him and actually another guy, Zaire, which hopefully I'll have him on a podcast soon so you all can get a gauge from both of these amazing people. But basically, for me personally, I don't meet that many people who are still playing sports, but also have already started the beginning stages or even more intermediate and higher level stages of building their business and building their craft outside of the sports, right? A lot of people I generally tend to see when they're playing sports, they're 100% all in, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But oftentimes only really 2% of people really make it to the pros. So for the 98% of the college athletes who don't end up making it to the pros, right? Oftentimes they're there trying to pick up the pieces and learn themselves again, because they might have spent so much time and so much years, so much energy building their craft in sports. Now that it's over, they're sitting there kind of like with nothing in their hands and kind of nothing to show for it, right? So one thing I like about Trey is he has numerous businesses, one in which is an actual Airbnb business, right? So Trey, I just want you to kind of go ahead and introduce yourself. You know, just give us a quick, brief background about, you know, not only your business, but your sports career as well, from kind of like how you started and how you got into who you are today.
As Alex was saying, I went to Vanderbilt University, graduated in 2018, played football there for 4 years. Unfortunately, when I graduated, I tore my ACL my last practice of my college career. I didn't get an opportunity to do pro day. There were a few scouts that actually had came to that practice to see me and a few other players. So I never got an opportunity to, do pro day. Wasn't going to be one of those guys invited to the combine. And it took me about a year and some change just to get back. ACL, tore multiple ligaments, had a few things messed up in my lower leg as well towards my calf. It was just intensive rehab, and that was pretty devastating just because, I felt like I was so close. Once, that finished and the season ended and I had to, rehab when I missed that whole time, I came back a year later and I've played in all developmental leagues since then. So I've played in the AAF, the Spring League, and now the USFL, all of which are, if people know what the minor leagues for baseball is or the G League for basketball is, there's the same exact thing for football. So every season you play, 10 to 12 games, depending on if you make it to the playoffs, and then you move up to the NFL, right? And if you don't get picked up, you come back. So it's just a developmental league. For people, we got former first-round draft picks. We got undrafted guys, people in my situation, people from everywhere that are trying to make it there. And year in and year out, we're putting anywhere from, 40 to 60 players into NFL training camps. And then, people end up getting signed. We had an all-pro player. I say all that to say that is a part of the journey that's important for me to tell you all, because something I'm sure we're going to talk about is mindset today. And a lot of the background of the mindset that I've carried over into business has been because of my past as an athlete, my present as well. But to the deeper question of how I got into business, I was always pretty much fascinated with sales. When I was a little bit younger, I was more into the marketing. So once I graduated, I worked numerous jobs that you can think about. Valet, I worked selling Cutco knives, which was like a college thing. I worked door knocking AT&T. Going from, house to house, door knocking and trying to get people to sign up. I was that annoying guy who'd be like, hey, you got Verizon, who you got, I'm kind of here to sell you something. And that really took my grit to another level. And then I got introduced to life insurance because I was in a situation where financially I needed to make something happen really fast, and I was looking for something where I could get paid based on my work ethic, because I knew that a typical 9 to 5 where they're going to pay me a certain amount every week, that was going to cut it for what I needed to do. I was moving. I was transitioning from after COVID. I had to figure out a place to stay. The goal hasn't changed to get to NFL, so I had to pay for training, and I wanted to make sure I was training around NFL athletes, staying around my best friends, my brothers, making sure that I can, stay in the environment so that way when I did get to an opportunity like this, I can be prepared to go to the next level. And I knew that cost a lot of money. So I got introduced to life insurance, which this will all make sense to how we are where we are here in 1 second. But I got introduced to life insurance as an insurance broker. And for those of you who don't know, an insurance broker is different than like State Farm and Geico and Aflac, the prominent names. We're licensed with 30 to 40 people, different insurance companies. So we can get people basically covered for anything, no matter what conditions you have. And I say that because that was my first taste of like, you get what you pay for. Because my whole life, when I was working at Foot Locker, when I was a little kid, when I was working at bakery, back to valet, Cutco, all that, it was all based on basically, the hours that you put in. So I was being rewarded for sweat equity. And for those of you, who've done any sort of commission-based job, you got to hustle to make it happen. But the cool thing was that life insurance, is considered a, high income commission-based job because you can get paid pretty well. So I was doing insurance. Long story short, I stopped because I came to this USFL. The season ended last year. I was not called up to the NFL. I was not picked up, one of the people. So I knew I had to come back. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go back to selling, but I did like the idea of when I worked, I was rewarded. So next thing that I was introduced to, a gentleman that Alex probably knows, Rashawn Mitchell, Pushman Mitch, he had a course teaching people how to take their car off a Turo and do private rentals. Now, I was always fascinated with cars, but I didn't have a car to get rented out. I was pushing like a 2013 Honda or whatever. So, of course, he was teaching people how to run paid advertising. And what happened was, because I was an insurance agent before, I used to have to pay for leads that were generated online. And for those of you who don't know who leads are basically whenever somebody is looking for a product or a service, they are considered a lead, somebody that's inquiring. If you've ever filled anything out, if you ever gone to the barbershop and somebody said, hey, do you know somebody? And he says, yeah, I have a number. You are now officially a lead. So that's a quick breakdown. So we used to have to buy these leads for life insurance so that way I could go sell to these people because I didn't have to sell to my family and friends. So the reason I say that is because when I was taking Pushman Mitch's course for cars, it just clicked in my mind that I was paying for this same thing when I used to sell insurance. And I was like, wait, I asked him, I said, can I use these same principles? Can I use this running ads for life insurance? And he was like, well, I have a guy that I can introduce you to. He introduced me to a gentleman who I bought another course from. He showed me how to generate life insurance ads. And then from there, it really everything just kind of started building. I learned how to generate just life insurance ads. Then I started working with gym owners. Then we started working with people who have like luxury car services and such. Now even to Airbnb with certain people. So yeah, we run a paid advertising platform, digital marketing kind of all around. We've helped people build funnels, websites, but our predominant focus, at least at the end of this year, I told my team we really want to lock into being able to run ads for businesses. That's really what I enjoy doing. I like helping people make money, right? It's cool to design websites and funnels, and I think that those are all very, very useful. But I want to be the person that runs the ads that's going to the website or to the funnel that's going to help the person make the money. So I know that was a pretty long story, but that's an overall introduction of myself. I'm currently still playing in the USFL, and I'm still running my business, which we're going to get into because that's something that I really want to change the narrative for athletes and really professional athletes for being an athlete and being an entrepreneur, because they do not need to be, separated. They can be cohesive.
They can do both. To become successful, I don't believe that you need balance, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel as if you still need to be able to balance things appropriately, if that makes sense. Right? Oftentimes when people think of balance, they're like, okay, how do I do it evenly, right? No. In business, in my opinion, right, if you want to be successful in what you're doing in anything, right, anything in life, there is no such thing as even balance, right? You have to go all or nothing on one thing, and some things are going to have to take that back burner, right? So when I say balance, I don't mean balance in the, but how are you able to properly balance your professional career and sports, right? And still be able to work on the numerous businesses that you have. Can you kind of just share some insights onto your daily routine and how that whole flow essentially goes for you?
Yeah. I'm a big story guy too. Y'all can tell I've sold things before because I like telling stories so people understand stories. So I'll answer your question in two parts. So the first thing, I 100% agree with you in terms of the balance thing. What I tell people is this: for all of you that do not know, let me just go ahead and set the record very, very straight. right? You are a professional athlete. All these people that you adore, that you watch, you like their posts, they have the same amount of 24 hours that you do, right? And the reason I say that is because, trust me, I've been in the locker rooms. I know all these dudes. They go to practice or they work out in the off season. They finish at 2, 3 o'clock. They watch film. They recover. But there is a lot of downtime. And by a lot, I mean a lot of downtime. They're on Instagram. They're playing video games. They're talking to girls. They're no different. They're not doing anything special, right? What that extra hour to 3 hours that you have, and however it may be, 20 minutes in the ice tub, 30 minutes after you finish watching film, 25 minutes while you're, getting stretched, an hour after you finish eating dinner, especially if they're not married and they don't have kids or anything like that. That's my hack. A lot of people ask me that. That's my hack. I just choose not to indulge in a lot of other things that people indulge in, especially as athletes, because with your body, unlike business, which I've learned, you can only allocate so much time into training, especially with football. Now, basketball, other sports that aren't as taxing on your body from like a physical wear and tear might be a little bit different, right? If you're a basketball player, you could dribble for a few hours, go take some shots, do conditioning, lift. That's like 5-6 hours right there if you break it up. For football, you got practice, you lift. There's not much else you can do. You can watch film, right? And when you watch film, you also have to understand there are breaks that come with that as well. So to answer your question, I just really choose to prioritize my time. And I was able to do that because, like I said, going back to college, being an athlete, and then on top of that, I just realized what I wanted, which is how I'm going to segue into your next question about, like, what does my routine look like now? And for me, I have really, 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 really big goals that are a lot bigger than really just business, just big goals that I feel like the Lord has spoken to me about things that I need to do before I leave this earth. And it requires a lot of money. No matter how much money I make as an athlete, it's going to require me to have some consistent money, some consistent cash flow coming in. And the second thing is, when I started doing life insurance, it opened my eyes that I actually enjoy helping people. That's why I like generating leads. You're here and you only make this amount of money, and then you can make more money by working with me and my team. That makes me feel good. The same way that I would sell somebody an insurance policy, and if your grandmother died tomorrow and she got $50,000, now not only is her cremation or her funeral taken care of, but you have mortgage payments for 2 years. All the other stuff that, she was giving you, all those other things are taken care of. If you got a $300,000 house, you're a husband and your wife dies, whatever it may be. I like the city. When I had people pass away, that made me the type of person who wanted to make sure that I had a service. That's why I do service-based business. I think products are great. I don't think there's anything wrong with products, but I like service. That's the type of person I am. So that's why I created what I created. But I won't go on a tangent too long, but that is part of the reason why I do what I do when I do it now. Now, into the question you were asking about strategy, this is where the story comes in. So when I was learning from Pushman Mitch on how to get this all set up, I had heard something. And when I met you and I met everybody at Neo's conference, it was mind-blowing about the virtual assistants. And I didn't know about it. And I knew that I had to implement that into my business because my goal has never changed. My vision to get to the NFL and all these other things that I have attached with that hasn't changed. And I said, well, when I'm playing football, I only have so many hours a day. And there's only so much I can do. And it's going to cost me a lot of money to hire, an American worker to do what I need to do. So I started investing into figuring out how to hire a virtual assistant way back in October. Granted, I didn't get up here to Canton for the season until March. So that's 5-6 months where I was studying. I was asking you questions. I was asking everybody questions. I was watching interviews. I was paying attention to what needed to be put in place to build a solid infrastructure with just virtual assistants. Right. And I'm new to business. Right. So to answer your question, my schedule looks like this. I wake up in the morning. So we have team meeting at either 7 or 8. I like to get up an hour and a half to 2 hours before that. I get up. It takes me about 30 minutes. I make sure I pray. That's the first thing I do. I read my scripture for the day and I meditate on that scripture. I don't try to do too much with meditation on more than that. I don't do a devotion or anything like that. I pick a scripture. I meditate on it. After that, I brush my teeth, do what I need to do. I'm out of the house in 30 minutes. I get my stretching in. While I'm driving, I'm a big audio message. So all the people that I hired in my onboarding process, I made sure that they understood that this job is not going to be text messages. It will be audio messages because, like I said, forward thinking, I knew with my time, the only thing I could do is send audio messages because I'm going to be driving. I'm only going to have 15 minutes. So how can I get to my 5 employees all the tasks that I need for them to do in an 8 to 10 minute time span? Because I only live 10 minutes away from the facility. So I'm blasting out audio messages. I'm doing what I need to do. By the time I get to the facility and I'm walking into the building, I'm done. I'm in there stretching. I'm following up with my team because I made sure that their schedule did not coincide with mine, meaning that they are working during the hours that I am practicing, i.e. or playing. So they work from 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 3 p.m. because that's when I have practice and I have meetings and I'm locked in on ball. When I finish with practice and I finish with, so, after the team meeting starts, I'm all ball until after practice. The moment practice ends, I pull my phone out. I get all my updates from all my clients. I make sure all my appointments are set. I make sure everything's organized with my Google Calendar. I have a staff of 4. So 2 people who run the ads, 1 person that's my full-time assistant, another person who does all of our automations for all of our clients. By the time 12:30, 1-ish o'clock comes, by that time I'm in the ice tub, I'm still dishing out messages. Granted, guys, like I said, all this is set up because I have SOPs, which I'm sure if you're watching this and you're following Alex, he's explained all this to you, so I'm not going to waste y'all time going into that.
Just to do a quick, if you don't know what SOPs are, they just means basically standard operating procedures. Let's just say you get hired at McDonald's, right? They pop in that little VCR videotape or whatever. That's kind of like their video version of their SOP. So it's just kind of like the outline and the skeleton and the step-by-step process on how to essentially run or do something in whatever business in whatever position.
That is correct. So yes, exactly what he said. So I've had all these SOPs set up. Like I said, we're going back 5 months. All this is written. They know exactly what to do. They know what I'm doing. There's no confusion. So by the time I get finished with everything, I'm out of the ice tub, I finished all my stretching, and I get to the house, I can immediately spend a good hour and a half-ish because I don't want to go straight from practice and then to watching film immediately. A lot of people just go home and relax for a few hours before they get into watching film. So instead of me relaxing, I spend a good hour to 2 hours focus solely on the business. I'm locked in, phones on, do not disturb. You would be surprised with 2 full hours how much work you can actually get done. By the time 5:30-ish, 6 o'clock rolls around, I'm back to film for another 2 hours. Talk to my fiance for an hour and a half or to an hour every night. And then after that, I watch film for another hour and I go to sleep. So all in all, the time allotment is still exactly the same. It's just that 2 hours after practice where most people are either going home and napping or they're playing the video games or they're just Instagramming girls. I'm deciding to work on my business. And then in the morning, I get another 30 to 45 minutes of immediate conversation with my team, making sure that everything's set up and I'm communicating with them. Because like I said, they work from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then I have another person who works in the evenings because I message him at the end of the day and he follows up and gets everything set up for the morning crew that comes in. So it's almost like we're working 24 hours a day because unlike, my competitors, i.e. everybody who's listening to this, you all don't have that sports going on. So you guys have the full 24 hours to really get ahead of me. So I had to figure out a way. I had to hire extra virtual assistants for the same thing. That's why I have 2 people who run ads. Make sure that I have somebody who's working in the evening and the morning. So we're basically working 24 hours around the clock. And then from there, it's just a matter of being disciplined, which is the last thing because none of this works unless you're disciplined. Because this sounds like a real cute schedule. And so you got to get up and actually make it happen. So I hope that answered your question, but yeah, that's how I get down.
No, it definitely did. And I like that. And I feel like maybe some people, it might have gone over their heads, right? So I just kind of want to highlight something that you said. It's the fact that not only do you have people working while you're while you're somewhere else, essentially at the facility, training, playing, sport and whatnot, you have the same people working basically when you're at work and while you're asleep, essentially, right? Now, why I feel as if that is why I know that's so powerful is because oftentimes, like you said, right, we only have so much time in the day. Everybody has the same 24 hours, right? What you do with that 24 hours is extremely important. And a lot of people, their biggest excuse as to why they can't grow a business is because they say, I don't have enough time. And let's just say, hypothetically, you are one of those athletes who just quite literally, let's just say your schedule is just so packed, right? With school, with studying, maybe you have a side hustle or a job that you go to because you might have bills as well and things that you still need to pay for. So all of that can factor in. And let's just say you might only have an hour of downtime a day. You were still able to utilize other people's time. And my brother loves saying this and I'm stealing it from him, right? You basically hired somebody to do those minimum wage activities for you. Right. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by minimum wage activities, they don't mean that the activities aren't important that need to be done. Right. It doesn't mean that, I am not doing things that don't have value to my business. No, you're just figuring out, okay, what is very time consuming in my business, but I also don't necessarily need to do. And then you're finding somebody else to do that for you but still at a high level, right? So I did want to highlight that because oftentimes people, they say they don't have enough time, but even if you don't have enough time, there's still ways to increase your productivity. There's still, especially with AI now, there's in some instances, you don't even need to hire somebody, right? A lot of these AIs and a lot of these products, a lot of these services are literally built and created to make jobs easier and more automated and efficient, right? So it really just comes down to doing the research and having, like you said, the discipline to execute on a lot of those necessary and maybe even uncomfortable things that will not only help you grow, but help your business grow. So I wanted to ask this, right? What motivated you to essentially pursue entrepreneurship, right? Because entrepreneurship is not for the weak. It's not for everybody. A lot of people, they say they want to become an entrepreneur, but then once they actually become an entrepreneur and business isn't good, it's easy to be an entrepreneur when you're making money, when business is good, right? But every business will have a period in time in which business is not good. Leads aren't coming in, or sales aren't coming in, or the economy can have an effect on how your business is. It has nothing to do with you. The economy can be messing it up, right? So what inspired you to do entrepreneurship while being an athlete, right? Both in the college and the professional level. And how do you decide what made you pick the industry that you're in, right? Because I know earlier you said something along the lines of you needed to make money in that current moment. You needed to make money quickly, but at a high level. And I'm sure there are a couple of different skill sets that you possibly could have done that could have kind of yielded the same results you're looking for. But what made you specifically pick the industry that you're in now?
That's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that. I would say, honestly, I didn't pick the industry. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. And this is going to be contrary to what a lot of people say. I know people are big, like, pursue your passion. Like, I realized I was really good at sales and I was really good at speaking to people. I've known since I was a kid, it's easy for me to talk to people. It's not hard for me to hold a conversation. And I knew that it was a skill that I could figure out. Once I figured the sales part out, that was the first taste that showed me, like I said earlier, that whenever you work, you can earn more based on how hard you work and how much effort you put forward. And it reminded me of sports, because if I go and practice on my T-step and practicing on my man-to-man coverage skills and my ball skills as a football player, and I play safety, I know that that will reap me a reward at some due time, right? At a 9 to 5, I didn't feel that way because, like I said, I had to, go work for a year while I was recovering from my ACL. And that first glimpse of it feeling like football, it gave me that rush. And to answer why I chose, I guess, entrepreneurship, I don't even really look at it like it gets crazy. Says I don't really use the word entrepreneurship that often, even though I know that's what it is. I just feel like whenever you're ready to bet on yourself and really just go all in, and you're kind of ready to be fearless and understand, like you said, that there's going to be highs and lows, it's like, why wouldn't you make that choice? That's how I look at it. Because at the end of the day, I feel like not only, there's benefits that come with, being a business owner, but for me, it's like I had something in my mind that I wanted to do that nobody's ever done. And then to secondly answer your question on why I chose the industry is because I've been on the other side of the fence. And honestly, that's probably the main reason why. Because most of the people that I'm serving are like our predominant target audience, and our like niche that we work with predominantly is like agents, insurance agents, whether that be, they're selling auto insurance, home insurance, life insurance, infinite banking policies, which a lot of people, are getting really excited about. And I know a lot of people in your crew and in your mentorship, your mentorship and mastermind group, do that as well. But I know what it feels like to be on the other end of when somebody's trying to buy a service to make money, because I've been that person who had to drive 5 hours just to go make $5,000 and then drive 5 hours and not make any money and drive back home sad and be like, dang, I wasted my whole weekend. But I know what that feels like. So when I had the opportunity to serve those people, going back to why I said like service, I said, yo, there's nobody out here doing what we do. Like the way that we work with our clients, nobody else works with them like that. Like our customer service, better than everybody else's. Our delivery time, better than everybody else's. Our ad consistency, better than everybody else's. Like we're head and shoulders above the competition, simply because most of the people that are in the space that I'm in, working with these insurance agents, they've never sold anything, or they weren't good. Right. And me being a top insurance producer allowed me to see it from a completely different perspective. And now it's just like an industry I like. Once I started getting into it, though, that's when I got introduced to other people like you all, who don't just do like life insurance, but there's like all sorts of different businesses. Like I didn't know what a funnel was. I had no idea what a funnel was until insurance space was like a funnel. I'm like, oh, what's that? And then it opened up my eyes to a lot of things that are possible. And the last thing, I know I'm piggybacking, but the probably another thing is I've always watched like a lot of podcasts for a long time on like entrepreneurship. And while I was selling for that year and a half, like driving around selling life insurance, I didn't listen to a lot of life insurance stuff. All I listened to was entrepreneurship. I listened to, all the people that and I know as well. And I had fear. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to do that. And when the opportunity presented itself, I just decided to jump. And I love the chase. I love the thrill of like being like my back's kind of against the wall. Like, I got to make this happen. And it gives you a sense of pride when like you built like how you're building, your podcast, and you're continuing to grow. When you see it and it's small and it's just growing. It's just I love that. Like as an athlete, it's been like that since I was a kid. Like having a vision of going Division I, and you see it manifest and come to life. It's just like, wow. And I get that same thrill from owning a business. I couldn't get that even selling insurance or working a 9-to-5. And there's nothing wrong with it. But for me, it fit more of my personality.
And I like the part you said where you said you were scared, basically. You were in fear, but the right opportunity presented itself and you took that opportunity, still knowing that you were basically a bit fearful and weary about what was going on. And I feel like a lot of people get too stuck in the fear mode and retreat when an opportunity presents itself rather than taking advantage of the opportunity when it presents itself, right? Because think about it like this. I was told one time that every great opportunity is on the opposite side of fear. When you are most fearful in a situation, that is probably the time in which you need to take action and go ahead and jump into whatever it is that is making you afraid, right? Because fear means this: false evidence appearing real. So fear is something that we generally create in our mind based off of information that we have, been conditioned to learn throughout our lifetime, through personal experiences that maybe the first time it might have happened for you just didn't turn out good, right? But in all actuality, that could have been a good thing. There's a number of reasons why people obviously have fear, right? But the biggest lesson that I want people to take from this is when you feel fearful, that is the perfect time to jump into whatever it is, because one of two things will happen, right? An amazing opportunity will present itself, or you have still dove head into something that was fearful to you, and now you most likely overcame that fear. So even if no quote unquote new opportunity comes from it, you were able to still build upon yourself mentally, right? On attacking something in a moment in which you felt as if everything inside of you was telling you to retreat, right? So I feel like this is a perfect segue into my next question. And it's, how can you share any challenges that you faced from transitioning from being full-time athlete, right? Because essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, in college, you were essentially a full-time athlete and student as well, student athlete. How can you share some challenges from that transition from being that athlete to an entrepreneur? And how did you overcome the challenges and the fears from doing that?
So just so I understand the question, are you asking, how did I go from just being an athlete to now being an athlete and an entrepreneur?
Correct. But share like a challenge within that transition and how you were able to overcome it.
All right, so one, so I give you two. One of them is a little bit more like what most people will expect, and the other one is a little bit more what I guess people wouldn't expect. So the one that most people would expect is that, what are people going to say about you? Because when you're known as the athlete, you're the cool guy. You're the guy that like all your Instagram pictures and posts, like they get a bunch of likes. And it's all football. And the only other thing you post is like when you got designer on, or you got a new car, or you taking a trip or a vacation as a professional athlete. That's all people care about. If you look at most athletes' pages, I guarantee you that's all you're going to see. Maybe some community service. That's it. Right? Reels, no matter. And this is something and that's why I said it's funny, because a lot of people don't know, a lot of millionaires, probably billionaires, they don't have a lot of followers. They don't get a lot of likes. Their engagement on their reels is really low. People probably think that it's capped because
making reels, like some of them don't even really make content like that.
Exactly. And the thing is, because we in our society, especially as African Americans, have so associated like money and like status, we put those together and think that because you got a lot of likes and you got a lot of engagement on your social media, that you have a lot of money and that you have more value than the next person. And it's funny because, like I said, I'm not going to name any names, but all the people that you and I know, a lot of them dudes, they don't even get that many likes. They don't get that much engagement. But if you check their bank account, they really get into it. And it's interesting because as an athlete, you know, that's a challenge because you're like, man, like, do I post this stuff that's not cool? Like, do I engage with these people who aren't like like they don't get all the love, or I don't do the stuff that seems like, oh yeah, I'm gonna post the Drake quote and just have a football picture. Or like I said, I'm gonna post me, I just got my new car or whatever, or I'm just gonna post me in an outfit or just anything like that. Or do I decide to, you know, post something that can provide value to the next person? Most of these entrepreneurs are actually posting and they talk about credit and they talk about how to set your business up and they talk about your mindset, and that's not what people want to hear. Right. So that was a challenge for me because I knew that part of me having to get my awareness, a part of me making offers to make my business grow was going to be that I had to make my social media presence known that I am Arnold Tarpley III. I'm not just Trey Tarpley who plays football, and I'm not just Trey Tarpley who's an entrepreneur. I'm me. So I'm gonna post all this stuff on my page, and it takes a lot. Like I know that's why I said it's funny, but it's truthful because a lot of people, even just entrepreneurs in general, you know, are afraid to post about stuff because they're worried about what people are gonna say. And I would agree that as an athlete, it's a little bit even more heightened because the perception that most people have seen you as is an athlete. Then they see you as an entrepreneur. The first question I got when I got here was, oh, he's not locked in. He's just worried about business. He's not blah, 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 blah. And that's something that was a challenge for me. Like I knew I overcame it because I prepared for it, but I knew that was going to come. And I have some teammates and other people I know who really do want to be more like, spend their off seasons learning about how to do these things. They have ideas about business, but they'll never actually hop in just because of the perception that they don't want to get from so many other people because everything else has been like, man, you're just a football player. And they, even though they want to be just their name, like you're not this or that, you're just you. And you may choose to do these other things, and that's just how you allocate your time. But that's no indication of, you know, who you really are, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of like a cliche one. The second one would be something, a challenge. I underestimated how hard like business owners work. I'm not gonna lie. Like as an athlete, you think in your mind, like I'm the hardest working dude. Cause you know, it is hard. You gotta get up at 4 or 5 a.m. You gotta run miles. You gotta do this. But a lot of people don't know, like business owners begin busy. Like I tell people like, yo, a lot of these people are dogs. Like if they had the athletic ability, they would be the Michael Jordans, you know what I'm saying? They would be the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryants. Like it's a lot more Kobe's, Mike's, and LeBron's in business than it will ever be in sports. But you don't see that because, number one, they don't have a platform. Number two, you don't really know their routine. But if they told you, Warren Buffett, like if these dudes really told you the discipline and stuff that they really had, these millionaires and billionaires really had the discipline, you would be like, what do this? But a lot of people don't know, like business owners begin busy. Like I tell people like, yo, a lot of these people are dogs. Like if they had the athletic ability, they would be the Michael Jordans, you know what I'm saying? They would be the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryants. Like it's a lot more Kobe's, Mike's, and LeBron's in business than it will ever be in sports. But you don't see that because, number one, they don't have a platform. Number two, you don't really know their routine. But if they told you, Warren Buffett, like if these dudes really told you the discipline and stuff that they really had, these millionaires and billionaires really had the discipline, you would be like, wow, that's why they're getting so much money. That's why they're creating these products and services and they provide this type of value into the world. And that's why they're rewarded in a different way that doesn't look like likes and 60,000 people in a stadium or like a boxing match screaming your name. But it's like you still provide tremendous value. And I underestimated that. And I would say that was a challenge for me because I was just like, oh, yeah, like this is going to be smooth. It wasn't like that at all. So those are my two, bro.
And I like that you said that because people, like you said earlier, right? They feel like, okay, people with all the big followers and large audience, and it's like they feel like those are the only people that work hard. It's like, okay, you got that, so you got to be making money. You got to be doing this, that, and the third. And then when you flip it, because most people aren't at that high level socially in their business, right? When I say social, I mean on like these social media platforms where you see the people who have a lot of followers or don't have a lot of followers, right? Most people have, you know, under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 followers, right? But the type of work ethic that they're putting in their business, like you said earlier, right? You didn't like the 9 to 5. It's fine because I don't like the 9 to 5 either. But as a business owner, there is no clock. It's from 12 to 12, 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. And then we're going to do it again from 12 a.m. to 12 a.m., right? You could work, it just for one, depending on how somebody's sleep schedule is, right? Mine's a little, it ranges, but I could be doing work at 2 in the morning. I could be doing work at 3 in the fucking afternoon. I can be doing work at 8 p.m. at night, right? It just depends on what I need to get done in my business, right? Where my energy lies, where my focus is. Because sometimes for me personally, right, I don't always have the same amount of focus at the same amount of time on different days. Sometimes I'm more productive and more focused at 2 a.m. And some days I'm more productive and more focused at 3 p.m. Right. But as a business owner, it's always on. It never stops. Right. Everything you are essentially doing now is geared towards building your business and your brand. So it makes it difficult sometimes, like you said, when, and even as I played sports in high school, but not in college. Right. So I can't relate to the college athlete aspect. But I just know, just being an athlete then, right, I agree with you, is everything seems cool and you don't want to basically go out of the status quo on what they say athletes are. But the moment you really do and you kind of just say, fuck it, like I don't really care what all of you all are going to think, right? I'm going to put the work in and actually start doing this. No matter what happens, I'm going to put in 100% all effort. Sometimes it's not successful, right? But you learn from those mistakes and you're able to then transition and build upon them on your next endeavor or on your next business or maybe in a different part of your business. So in what ways do you believe your expertise and the work that you put in to basically learn and do all the things that you have now, right? Like in what ways has your expertise as an athlete been beneficial to the process of understanding, let me rephrase that, the hard work and expertise that you've put in, right? As a college athlete, as a business owner, and even as a professional athlete, how can you share that with a college athlete that's up and coming now who wants to start their own business, even if they don't know exactly what business they want to start?
So good question. I would say my genuine answer is before you start looking at other people first. Just start consuming content. I know this is probably backwards for what a lot of people try to tell you, like, yeah, go do this. Just start consuming content. I say that because you in business, and I hear this all the time, the first business you start is not going to be the business you have forever, right? Yeah. So it's not necessarily like Alex Hormozi says something that I love, and I use it for really everything I do, is as long as you are directionally correct, you're good, right? So start by just consuming content. There's a bunch of different podcasts you can go look on. I'm sure you can watch this one. You can watch numerous others. You can go to EYL. You can go to Social Proof. I know Neo has a pod. There's just a bunch of different podcasts. If you're tapped in and you're watching this, then you've probably ran into these other guys. So I would highly, highly, highly suggest just start watching them. That's what I did because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I told y'all, I was about to get started in Turo, and somehow I ended up in lead generation, right? Because what happens is you're going to start watching these videos, and it's just like, this is what I like to tell people. If you're an athlete and you're in college, you probably have some favorite player, whatever sport you play. If you're a woman, if you're a man, if you're a basketball player, baseball, soccer, golf, football, bowling, tennis, track, doesn't matter. You have somebody who's a favorite. And there's a reason why they're a favorite. You didn't just all of a sudden wake up one day and say, this is just my favorite player. It's something about that person that you liked, whether the way they dressed, the way they talked, the way they played, the way they carried themselves. But you only did that because you looked at a pool of people. The first person you looked at, you were just like, that's my favorite player. Absolutely not. And your favorite player has also probably changed because when you were younger, you liked one person and now you like a different person as you get older. And I say that because you just need to start surrounding yourself. Because the first thing, like if I wish I would have known, is I would have just started consuming information about, to be honest, Black entrepreneurs. That's what got me. Watching all the podcasts I just named, I just saw Black entrepreneurs. When I thought entrepreneurship, I thought a white man in a suit. I never saw somebody like the reason I like Pushman Mitch, that's my mentor. He played sports. He looked like me. He dressed like he a professional athlete. So when I heard him speak, like he always says, I dress like this to get people to look at me and hear what I'm saying. And it's a reality, especially for our culture, going back to what we just talked about. So I would say if you're an athlete in college, just start watching, go look at Black entrepreneurs. They're a lot cooler than you probably think they are. They're really a lot cooler than a lot of the professional athletes that you watch. Because like I said, them dudes we play ball. And, yeah, they're a lot more relatable, right? You know what I'm saying? Even it's just like you're going to find somebody that you like. And I bet when you start liking that person, you'll probably start liking the industry they're in. Then at some point, you'll be like, oh, okay, cool. And if you don't like their industry, you'll kind of like what they're saying. And then they'll say something else, and it'll lead you down a rabbit hole. And then if we can get in a conversation about your environment, so now your algorithm is changing on your Instagram, on your YouTube, on your Twitter, on your Facebook, and your TikTok. Now you're starting to see more of these things, and eventually something will hit you that you're like, this is what I like. I like Airbnb. I like Turo. I like running a virtual assistant business. I like selling e-commerce products. Like, you're going to find somebody that you like. They're going to be doing something. And then you're going to find a pool of people who are doing similar things. And then eventually you'll end up finding something that you like. But that would be my advice. Just start looking up that stuff. Start creating that environment for yourself. And then give yourself like a few months and you'll end up running into something that you just like. And then from there, those people that you're following, buy whatever they have. Like, if it's a $7 ebook, just buy something. Use, if you're getting NIL. I'm sorry, I call it IUL. I'm tripping. I'm sorry. NIL. Yeah, you use a little bit of NIL money or the stipend that you get, and spend $100 to $1,000 and pay for their course or something like that. And they'll show you exactly what you need to do. You can just take the information and apply it to your situation. So that would be that's my recommendation. That's what I would do if I was you.
And I like how you said, right, that you were able to find a mentor, and that you were, even if it's a newer mentor or older mentor, just purchase their product, right? Because in business, and this is something that I learned from a mentor, you can't expect to sell a product at a certain price if you haven't purchased a product at a certain price, at that certain price. So if you want to start selling your product or services for $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, right? You can't really do that on a high successful level without purchasing a $1,000 product or $5,000 product or $10,000 product yourself, because you technically don't even know what it consists of to make it successful, right? So you have to be willing to spend money in order to get money. You have to put that energy out in order to actually expect to receive that energy to come back around. And I feel like this is a perfect transition to segue into mentorship, right? Because oftentimes I actually do not really see, now of recent, seeing a lot more, or at least I'm seeing college athletes take more initiative in finding them if it's not, easily accessible. But I feel like there aren't a lot of positive influences for college athletes when it comes to like entrepreneurship from people who are former athletes. You obviously see LeBron, you see people like Shaq who have made smart business decisions with their money, with their time, their energy, the people they hang around and surround themselves with, because your environment and the people you hang around with is more important than anybody, right? Which is why we say find mentors and find people who you want to essentially start to emulate, because then you'll actually be able to start to become like them. But I feel like there aren't really that many mentors in the college athletic space when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? So I wanted to ask you this. Have you ever coached an athlete before? And if so, could you just kind of share some of the insights, how you've helped them overcome some of the decisions in their athletic journey, their academic journey, and maybe even their entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, that's a good question. So as far as athletes go, one of the years that during the transition when I got hurt, I was actually coaching at my high school, and I worked with our team for 10 weeks. We went to the state semifinals for football. And that was my first experience kind of working with what I would call like little brothers. And I'm still cool with those guys to this day. A lot of them hit me up like when COVID happened, because this was the year before COVID. So when COVID happened, a lot of those guys hit me up and were asking me a lot of questions, whether it be like about women and girls and schools to go to. So that's always been cool. And then since last year, I started helping out in an organization in Nashville where I live. And we basically mentor kids that are in high school. And that was really my first consistent experience with something that I said earlier is kind of tied to my purpose, which is going to be, being able to give back. And when in terms of like the things that I was telling them for younger athletes is I really talk about mindset a lot, because I truthfully believe like the only reason why I am where I am is strictly off of the fact that I felt like God spoke to me very clearly and like showed me who I can be. And then it was like, it disappeared. And it was like very quickly, like, you got to work hard. And I didn't know what that meant. But back to the whole directionally correct thing, I was like, all right, well, hard workers kind of do this. So I'm just going to start doing this and see what happens. And it led me down the right path. And that's what I always talk to younger players, whether it be athletes or just kids. And I talk to our kids at our organization in Nashville before I left to come up here. I had like an hour presentation where I was just basically telling them about your mind and your environment, something I know you've heard of, the Be Do Have from Myron Golden. And, numerous other people who talk about that mindset. But I was sharing that with them as well, how important it is to have your mind right. Because, mindset is such a popular topic, whether you're a child or a teenager, an adult or a professional athlete. But it really needs to be broken down into like what makes sense for you. Because mindset is just have a strong mindset. What does that mean? What are we really even talking about? So for the younger crowd, I always just kind of talk about like setting goals. I talk about very basic things like setting goals, understanding, how life works. Hard work does reap things, but it may not be immediately. You got to understand the principles of this world, right? How God set the world up, right? There's a bunch of principles that we all live by, right? And it doesn't matter. It's not changing. If they understand that at a younger age, all the detail like meditation and positivity, like I'm for all that. I am. But a lot of these things need to be broken down for the younger generation. And when I speak to them, that's what I always talk about because, it's hard for little kids to learn about credit, right? And not saying you can't teach them, but that's going to be a lot more hands-on. If you're talking to a group of people,
the mindset first.
Right. Like I got to make sure you understand in your mind because I've been in their shoes. Most of the kids I'm talking to, I've been exactly where they've been. So I know what they're thinking, why they're thinking the things that they are thinking and kind of like the issues and obstacles that come with it. And I can always speak to them about this is what I would suggest that you do. If I was your age now, this is what I would do. And I try not to be the guy that's just like anything is possible. I try to really lay it down and be super straightforward and concrete with the younger generation to make sure that I'm sewing into them, not just by telling them things so that way they can just be like, okay, cool, in one ear and out the other, but that it can actually impact them.
I like that. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to a college athlete, right? Because I know you say you're mentoring the high school, right? And it does start with mindset, being able to kind of shift their mindset to be able to receive the next level information that will help them get to where they essentially want to be, right? So the next level that high school athletes want to be on are the college athlete level, right? What advice would you give a college athlete who essentially wants to start pursuing entrepreneurship or maybe just starting their own business while pursuing their sports career simultaneously, right? Because a lot of people are doing that now, which is an amazing thing. And are there any specific steps or resources that you would recommend they take advantage of?
I would say in terms of figuring out the best advice that I could give them would, number one, going back to what I said, the environment piece and like really consuming the right content. But as far as like practical like steps that they can start taking, I would just say start asking people that you like when you go into different businesses that you like places, think about places you like, things you like. Start just going in and asking questions. I think the most inquisitive person wins. And by win, I don't mean like any prize, but I actually mean like you figure out what you need to figure out. Like ask questions. That's something that I did not do a good job of. Like ask, your athletic director of the entire university, how did you get here, right? Start asking people just questions. That will lead you in the right direction all the time because they're going to start telling you things that will help you realize that what you're trying to achieve is not really far out of reach. Because like I said, when you go back to being an athlete, all you think is professional athlete, which is great, but there's so much more to who you are. And I'm not talking about after playing. Everything I'm thinking about is while you're playing. I'm an advocate. Like my whole thing is how can you maximize who you are right now? Hey, man, you have to plan for after football. I'm not the person to talk to you about that. There's somebody else to talk to you about. I'm the right person who's going to say, I need you to be a dog on the football field or on the basketball court or whatever sport you play. And then the moment that the buzzer beater ends, right, and you take your stuff out and you get out of the shower, I need you to lock in on your business. That's me. That's how I operate. So what I would say is go have these conversations with these people, right? If you like video games, dude, like figure out a way to reach out to somebody, go down to Best Buy and start talking to people. Hey, man, do you know anybody who works in XYZ? If they have Comic-Con and that type of stuff, go down and talk to those people. You can find a way to communicate with them. Start DMing them. Like a lot of this stuff goes a long way. Like and as a practical strategy, I'll say just start DMing people. Like if you find out somebody who made a video game that you really like if you're a big Call of Duty dude, figure out who's the person to make the first Call of Duty. Who made the last Call of Duty? Who are some of the video game creators that made Call of Duty? Just DM them. Yo, what's up, man? I know I play for Alabama. I'm a big fan, bro. I love your game, bro. Is there any way you could chop it up with me? And I'm interested in making a video game. Right? It's easy. We make things very, very complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated. Everybody's human beings. Everybody has a phone, right? Everybody has some sort of social media or some way you can reach them. Just hit them up, especially if you're an athlete. If you're playing at a big school or even a small school, if they don't respond, that's cool. They're still, if you're interested in something, you can start reaching out to people. Regardless of what anybody says, no matter if college athlete, high school athlete, you are interested in something outside of sports, 100%. It could be video games. It could be literally anything. Doesn't matter. Even if it's, and I hate to say this, even if it's something like women, you can hit up people who are doing whatever. There is no really excuse. It's just a matter of making it really simple, especially for athletes. So that's what I would tell them. Just hit them up. That would be my practical step is go to Instagram, go to Twitter, go to Facebook, and hit these people up. Everybody's on Twitter. Like if it was an older crowd who kind of understands it, like journalists and a lot of these people that are in politics, they're all on Twitter. Easily accessible. Shoot them a DM. They're everywhere. They might not be on Instagram. That's cool. They might be on LinkedIn. Hit them up on LinkedIn. All you gotta do is type their Google, search their name, and reach out to them. That's my like practical step. And then as far as like that's something you can do immediately. And the other thing you can do immediately that will tie in with that is just start consuming the content. And if you do those two things together, you'll eventually like come up with a formula. Because your mind, you'll have no choice. You'll just be surrounded by it. You'll be shooting out DMs. You'll be like, I should probably do this.
Exactly. And I like that you said there's a couple things that I want to respond to in what you just said, right? Most recent one is, like you said, consume content, consume whatever you want to essentially grow your mind to have it flourish. One of my mentors says what you tune into is what you turn into, and what entertains you trains you. And even deeper, I used to listen to a guy named Earl Nightingale. I'm talking about, this is a monotone voice, old white guy. He sounds a little boring if you are not in the right mental capacity to understand and grasp what he's saying. But the words that he's saying are very powerful. And one of the things he said is, your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant, it will grow. So, and he gave an example. He's like, imagine you have two seeds, two plants. One is nightshade, a deadly poison, and the other is corn, basically something to help you eat and continue to live through life. And it's the same thing in your mind. You're going to plant whatever seed you're going to plant, and however you then continue to nurture and help grow it and essentially add on more content around, that's what's going to come into fruition into your life. So I'll give you a real world example. If somebody is only consuming the shade room, only consuming content that is violence, only consuming content that is degrading towards men, women, children, older people, only consuming content that is very sexually based, right? Then that is what they are going to focus on in reality. But if somebody's consuming content like yourself, self-help, being able to build a business, being able to, basically anything that is your goals. And it doesn't have to be like, you do hours and hours a day of consuming the content. It could start off with literally just listening to a 2-minute video clip a day, or a 5-minute video clip, and then it will eventually build upon itself. It will compound over time. So maybe you started off listening to a 2-minute clip a day, but now you listen to stuff that's 2 hours a day. And now a year after that, now you listen to something that's 10 hours a day, right? But it all started off from that 2-minute clip. So I wanted to highlight that because your unconscious mind can't differ between positive and negative content, or positive and negative anything. They take it all the same and they multiply whatever it is you consume. So you just have to be very careful on what you consume and the environment you're around, right? And this kind of transitions to what I wanted to mention on earlier. Your environment is very key. It's very important on your growth and development. So when you are hanging around people who only do, and nothing's wrong with video games, right? I'm not saying that it is, but if you're only hanging around people who smoke weed, play video games, and talk about women in a degrading way, and that's what you're going to essentially fall into. But if you build an environment with people who are not saying that they don't sometimes fall into some of the negative things, because we're all human, right? But who are on a conscious and intentional journey of making sure that they're okay. I understand this is what we've been conditioned to believe and understand and do, right? But let's actually start taking the initiative to help each other out, right? Let's hold each other accountable. Let's make sure that we're finding mentors. Let's make sure that we're asking the right questions, right? Because the biggest disadvantage of anybody, doesn't matter the culture, the race, the ethnicity, your biggest disadvantage is what you don't know, right? So when you were saying earlier, all you need to do is just reach out to somebody and ask the question, right? For one, you're already starting to change your environment. You're starting to change your mindset. But now you're starting to learn information that you did not know before, right? I heard something. I can't remember if I'm going to say this exactly how the quote said, but you're doing 100% of the things you can do based off the information you know. You're at 100% of your capacity based on what you have already learned and implemented in your life. So what does that mean? You need to start learning new things. You need to start figuring out new ways to grow, figuring out do's and don'ts, right? Oftentimes people always talk about learning things that you need to start doing. We need to learn the habits that we need to stop doing as well, and the things we need to start breaking, right? And to kind of pivot back, because I don't want to veer a little too off, but what I was saying earlier, as far as when you had said earlier, as far as reaching out to ask somebody a question, I don't know how many times you and I have said mentor on this podcast, but there's a reason we've said mentor as much as we have, because mentors are basically the people who have already walked the path that you are embarking on, and they know the shortcuts and the do's and don'ts that will essentially help you throughout that journey. You can pay for a mentor, which I've done. You can meet a mentor and just be able to connect with somebody, which is also something I've done, and being able to just ask them questions. Because as men have pride, they tend to not like to ask for help, which we need to get out of that stigma. But think about it like this. If you were to just get out of your own head for a second and just be like, okay, I love this. I don't know anything about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, like you said, do the research on who you or what you want to do and find the people who are in that space. And then once you start asking the questions, people sometimes I feel like don't ask questions because they feel like they're going to be annoying whoever they're asking. But in reality, when people come to me and ask me questions, for one, I love answering questions because I love asking them. But for two, then it shows me that you're really serious about what you're doing. And who knows, you might randomly DM somebody who you might think will never respond, but then they not only respond and answer your question, but now they see how passionate you are about this topic or subject or profession. And now they want to be a mentor for you, right? So it all started with you just being inquisitive, you doing the research, and you found somebody who's in a profession and all you did was ask them a question. Now you've not only learned more, your biggest detriment is what you don't know. So now you're learning more. Now you've been able to get a mentor as well. And now you're able to actually have that proper path that you're on, all because you just took the initiative to get out of your own mind to overcome that fear. Remember when I said earlier, most things are on the other side of fear. You were able to overcome that fear and just say, hey, I don't know nothing about this space, but I have a question and I just want to know if I could take 5 minutes of your time. They say no, they say no. Don't get beat up about it. Just find the next person. If they say yes, they say yes. But now you have started something that you otherwise would not have started. Last thing I wanted to kind of like point out or kind of like talk about is like your future goals and aspirations, right? Both professionally and sports wise and in business. And when I say smaller scale, I don't mean smaller as in minimizing your goals. I just mean in time frame, smaller scale. So let's just say within the next 5 years, where do you see yourself both in your businesses and sports?
Yeah, got you. Perfect question. So start with business. By the end of this year, my goal is to have 100 customers on retainer. We're currently at 48, and we've been fluctuating between 53 and 47-ish. A little bit harder, in season. Like I said, we kind of maintaining. Once we get to the off season for few weeks, I'll be able to push that number up and then, keep growing. So that's the goal for this year. And then for 5 years, it's really to be anywhere from 100 to 300. Like I really want to scale this thing up. Like I said, we're working predominantly with insurance agents, but I want to expand and go into different markets, really build infrastructure around what we're doing. So 5 years, let's say, 500-600 people. Also want to start having my own group, I guess mentees, I guess you could call them, teaching people how to do what I'm doing. A lot of people are starting to ask me now because we are a service-based business. We're in month 8 now. So more people are reaching out because they're seeing the success of it. So I want to, really move into that space. So that's 5 years business. Professionally, this end of the season going, I do kind of year by year, but I'll do this year and then 5. End of this year is to be on the NFL roster on 53 man. Like I said, I didn't get called up last year, but we had about 56 people called up last year out of like 300 of us that were in the league. So this year, God willing, things will change, and we're on a good track right now. So I think things are going pretty well.
Falcons and help us get a chip, bro.
I'll play for any team, any 32 team, doesn't matter. But yeah, that's the goal for that. Next 5 years, want to still be playing. I mean, I got the way I take care of my body and prepare. I think the sky's the limit. So I don't really have any specific goals inside of playing except for maximizing my potential as much as I can. I like to get an all-pro. That's like my ultimate goal for football. And that's something I said since I was a little kid I wanted to do, and that really has nothing to do with anybody else but just myself. As far as like football goes, I play the game because I love competing, and I love just showing myself that I can do something. If something happens, I just prove it to myself. It's not about other people. It's not about the accolades. And honestly, it's not even about the money because, like I said, a lot of these business owners are getting a lot more cheese than these athletes are. So my perspective on money has changed, which is a whole different conversation. So 5 years, that would be that. If we move to the 10 to 15 year-ish mark, I would like to be not working at all inside any of my business. Definitely by the 5-year mark, I don't want to be working inside of the business. I'd rather really just truthfully just taking calls, and everything else just operates. There's still a lot of involved in. And then as far as like, sports goes, retirement. And then for me, I want to be high school head coach. Coaching is something that I know I'm called to do. That would be, that 10 to 20-ish year mark, kids, wherever we're at. And then if we want to go even further down the line, big goal, and I'll share it here, is actually to open up a homeless initiative, which I haven't came up with a name yet, but basically a homeless initiative that's going to teach homeless individuals, take them off of the street, give them food, shelter, but also bring them into what we would be creating a school system. I want it to be at a national scale to where each major city will have these hubs that can teach individuals how to work, or i.e. own a business. So take them from literally like being on the street, no teeth, whatever the situation is, however they got there, doesn't matter. We bring them in, we house them, we'll feed them, and then we'll have teachers that are going to educate them to basically bring them back into society, put them on their feet. So whether they're interested in actually working a job or figuring out how to do a business, we'll help get them, if they have felonies or if they just have any, cases or anything like that, we'll help them with that as well. God told me very clearly, that's what I want to do. That's what I feel like I'm called to do. I have a very soft spot for homeless individuals. So like, that's my super big goal, that I want to do, decades from now. And I don't even know how any of that is possible. Laid any of that stuff out. I've kind of thought about some preliminary stuff that I want to do. Yeah, man, I hope that kind of answered the question, but that's, from 1 year to, I guess, 30 to 40 years down the line.
And nothing wrong with that. Look, you have plans and you have a destination, right? So you're going to reach them, some sooner than you probably thought, maybe some a little later than you thought, but you have them written down, and that's what's more important than anything. Is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know about you, or any particular aspiring college athletes that might be listening to this? Anything you want them to know in general?
Yeah, I would say the last thing before we hop off, man, is my purpose for doing what I'm doing right now as being a professional athlete, entrepreneur, really. Arnold Tarpley III, that's what I like to be identified as. You can call me Trey. I own a business, but I play professional football. My purpose in even saying all that is, and why I'm posting the content I am, is because my job, I feel like right now, is to change the narrative. The narrative for so long has been you are a professional athlete and you own stock, you have real estate, or you pay somebody to do one of those two things and tell you where to put your money. But you as a professional athlete have your own desires, and you have your own ideas, and you have things in your mind that you would like to do. But there's something blocking you, and it's not anything financial. It's something mental. And I feel like if I'm going to I'll be the person to kind of spark a wave. And I'm not going to say, LeBron, I get it, Russell Wilson, but it's a lot more common people. And by common, I just mean like not super, super popular. Like you walk down the street and they know who those are. There's a bunch of people who are professional football players, basketball, baseball, soccer, that if they walk past you, you wouldn't have any clue who they are, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the individuals that I'm talking about who, if you go in the locker room, they probably tell you, hey, if you ever started a business, what would you do? And they'll be ready to tell you because it's on their mind and they've heard it and they do think it's cool. But like I said earlier, they don't want to be the person that has posted it on their page, and they don't really know where to start. And a lot of people are becoming more fascinated with it. And I think that, like I said, not name dropping, but the people that you and I know are popularizing our culture because we're making, being an entrepreneur look cool like being a professional athlete or a rapper, mm-hmm. right? Just like the shirt says. So I feel like I want to be that athlete to push that as well. So that way it's not just, entrepreneurs who are pushing to our youth, hey, man, don't be a rapper or athlete, be an entrepreneur. And my thing is like, be you. You know what I'm saying? If you want to play professional football and be the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, that's cool. And you want to own a business where you teach people how to open a barbershop, that's cool too. Now, obviously, as a professional athlete, unlike a regular entrepreneur, you are going to have to make sure that you put these SOPs in place. You're going to have to hire a team. And you aren't going to make as much money as the full-time entrepreneur. But that's okay because you have sports and you're making money there. And if you're doing it for the right reasons, that's cool. Because when you're done playing, you'll still be able to pursue football. Like, I know my business is only going to get so high. I'm going to keep putting in work. We're going to keep making money. But I know the moment I stop playing years down the line, it will grow. And that's fine. But you got to be okay with that, with where you're at. But I think to not start it at all and just to rather sit at home and play video games or, be on Instagram all day or just look at the shade room for 4 hours when you could spend those 4 hours every day learning how to hire a virtual assistant or how to put your car on Turo, like little things like that. I don't see why you shouldn't do that. And I'm going to make it a point, right? Like I'm going to get to the league and be somebody that they're like, dang, like he did that and he's still doing this. Like that's what I'm on. I just want people to know that, like, don't feel limited, man. Don't let somebody else's limitations be yours. Just because it works for them doesn't mean it needs to work for you. Somebody may have to, spend 30 hours doing something. It may only take you 15. That's your gift, right? If you're going to utilize that, then utilize that. Now, if you need to watch extra film and you're not getting the job done, that's a whole different conversation. Make sure that you are able to still, get your job done effectively and still handle your business. And if it requires more, cool. But I'm just a firm believer in that. And that's why if you follow me on Instagram or, Facebook or TikTok, I'm constantly posting about virtual assistants. I have an ebook out teaching people how to hire a virtual assistant, right? It's for free, because I think that as an athlete, that's going to be your key, because you are not going to be able to run it and being a professional athlete or a college athlete or doesn't matter, or a high school athlete, and not, like we said earlier, be able to be locked in. You're going to have to put together a team. But if you put together a team that does that manpower, or as you said, minimum wage activities for you, and you just are the thinker, that's what I'm saying. You create these businesses where you are the thinker, you don't implement, they implement, but you think, and you send voice messages and you create a system, you'll be fine. So yeah, man, that's really all I got, man. I appreciate you for having me today.
No, and I appreciate you coming on, and let the audience know exactly like where they can find you at, right? Because I know you said you post a lot on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook about these things, but where can they find you at so they're able to actually tap in with you and actually start learning?
Follow me on Instagram. It's at Trey Tarpley. Twitter at Trey Tarpley. TikTok, I want to say it's at Trey Tarpley. I don't know. My team, they just got on the TikTok. So it's either at Trey Tarpley, it should be at the bottom here. Same thing. It's just all one word. Just shoot me a message. That's the easiest way. If you just shoot me a message, I don't have like crazy engagement or anything like that, or at least at the time of this recording, I don't. That might change in 5-6 months, but still hit me up. Just hit me up. If you can't get in contact with me, you can head over to agentleadlab.com and send us a message, and my team will get to you.
Hey, man, I appreciate you so much. And look, if you haven't already, go ahead and make sure you like, subscribe to this channel and to this video. And make sure you go ahead and follow my guy, Trey, because I promise you the information that he's given on his page is extremely valuable. I don't bring people on who won't be of value to you all right? So thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see y'all next time.